So I'd like to thank Andrew for being with us here as, representing the voice of the customer here. We have quite a few folks here who are listening who own warehouses or run warehouses that, are asking themselves or are being asked by their managers and leaders, how can we use AI in the warehouse? And, Andrew, you're one of those pioneers who's been using a lot of tech. You've been using AI in the warehouse before the word AI was cool, and so it's an honor to have you here, to have you share your opinion and your thoughts on what it takes to deploy intelligent systems in a warehouse. And so now, before we let Andrew talk about what's happening in his company, Medusa, we'll start with Al giving us a brief little introduction about Ascension Logistics, Perseuss, AI agents, and whatnot. I'll let you go.
All right, thank you. Um, Now you're controlling the deck, Thomas.
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, next slide, please. Anyway, Ascension and Perseuss were partners. We've been partners for about 6 months now or so, and so we're definitely moving forward. Ascension Logistics understands logistics, warehouses. We're Blue Yonder partners, but it doesn't limit us to other WMS platforms like Manhattan or High Jump or Info or whatever. Next slide, please. I'm going to try to explain AI agents in 1 minute. It's pretty straightforward, and so the first thing is a large language model. Level one, you ask ChatGPT for an example, write an email, and it gives you the output. Easy stuff, right? So slide number 2. Then we drive into the workflows. So you give ChatGPT access to a tool like Google Calendar, for an example, so that the LLM, large machine model, can manage the calendar based on your instructions. At this level, then the LLM has access to tools, but is still passive and requires your instructions. And the last level is level 3. So instead of giving the AI agent a command, you give it a goal. For an example, manage my workplace calendar. The AI agent first performs reasoning to decide which meetings to accept or reject, then takes action by responding to the invitations. At this level, the AI agent not only has access to tools, but is also acting autonomously. And that's an AI agent explained in a certain way. Like Thomas was saying, a lot of people, because I deal with a lot of specifically Blue Yonder warehouse customers, they want to install AI agents, but they don't know where to start. So we are presenting here as a good place to start. And that's where Thomas comes in.
Yeah. So for anyone who has a warehouse and they're thinking, okay, I want AI in my warehouse somewhere, but the question is where, right? Because like technically it could be anywhere, right? So here, what we'll talk about with Andrew here is, okay, if you actually do have a warehouse and you have appetite for change and deploy tech to your warehouse and deploy artificial intelligence into your warehouse, um, here's some ideas of what you can do. This is just a slide of, me flexing a little bit. Like we developed some artificial intelligence for the warehouse. We got some accolades for it, but this is just me like establishing credibility. But anyways, let's move to the real world, right? That's what people care about. So Andrew works for a company called Medusa Distribution, and they're in a very interesting industry, right? Andrew, do you think you could give us a little bit of kind of insight into what it is that Medusa does and why shipping and packing and doing stuff to the cargo that you guys sell is so much harder than like other, for example, direct to consumer e-commerce?
Yeah, it's it's twofold, right? So one, it's B2B, so our orders are massive. So we might have 100 lines plus on most orders. We're picking either onto pallet, and our average order has like 6 or 8 shipments attached to it. So there's that angle, and then the other angle is that nicotine's a controlled substance, so we can only ship it via um, USPS, right? So we have a business exemption, and we ship it via. That's the only parcel. Well, now we're bringing on more and more final mile carriers that will move it, but for the most part, it's not like you can just send this stuff through UPS or FedEx. So that presents its own unique challenges of dealing with the post office and whatnot. Um, so yeah, so we have a physical limitation with how big the orders are and how difficult it is to pick and pack an order of that magnitude. And then on top of it, we have shipping constraints with the carriers that we can use. But we distribute smoke and vape shop products to stores throughout the world, really. Primarily, obviously, in the United States, coast to coast, but we do have a lot of business over in Europe, um, and we're seeing more and more of that pick up as well. So um,
So, Andrew, so you've been with Medusa, what, like 7 years, right? Um,
yes.
I personally have worked with you like 2.5 years now. But and we're gonna dive deeper into what Perseus does with Medusa and the role that Lucas plays and whatnot. But I was I was wondering if you can kind of give us to kind of set the stage. I mean, you've been guiding Medusa through a whole like digital transformation journey, right? Like when you got there, they were picking on pen and paper, right?
Yeah.
So can you kind of walk us through like all the stuff you did there?
Yeah. So 2018, I show up. We're picking with, like you said, pen and paper. No real location-based inventory. Um, you pick an order, you check the order, you box the order. So you're touching everything 3 times. Um, and we launched WMS in the fall of 2019. Um, in 2021, I believe it is, UPS and FedEx pull the rug out from underneath us and tell us they're not moving our product anymore when we were primarily a UPS house. So at that point, we start splitting product our orders in two. So um, if you have smoke shop products that can go, FedEx or UPS, still we'll send it that route because it's cheaper. If we have controlled substances like nicotine, we will send that through our appropriate channel. So now we're picking these large orders, not 2 times, but it's 2 pickers picking an order. We're bringing it to a pack station. We're packing it out. It's a human making a decision on how it should be packed out, right? All of the vape stuff is going, or the nicotine stuff is going via USPS, which we know there's some games you can play with whether or not you want to ship it in 2 boxes or one large box, and there's all implications on what the cost would be there. I knew there was probably some sort of money we were leaving on the table when it came to that. So that's where Perseus entered the conversation. We started to run some AI algorithms on how do we cartonize the existing orders, so that we can best maximize our cost savings on shipping, which we realized to be a high 6-figure number, by doing literally nothing, right? So by either splitting a box into two, or in some weird instances, actually sending one box versus two, we were able to save, yeah, upwards of, $500,000. So that was cool because we were doing that. But then it begged the question of why are we doing this after we're doing this on a tote or a cart level? Why don't we do this on the order level? There were some limitations with the WMS on that side with our integration with Perseuss. So we brought in a third party voice picking system that now we do this on the order level. So while when a picker grabs a cart, the boxes are on there that have run through Thomas or Perseuss's algorithm. And it's on the order level. So now we're picking all of the things that can go FedEx or UPS into certain boxes, and everything else that goes priority mail is going into these other boxes, right? So, and instead of touching things twice, we're now actually picking right into the carton that it goes out in. And this is all thanks to the partnership that we have with Perseuss, and then also this third party that we work with from our voice headsets called Lucas. So that's one example. It's it's also a very high level gloss over, make it sound very simple, but it's not. And it, obviously it was a project that took quite some time to get off the ground and get implemented, and we're realizing some pretty significant savings now. So boxes go straight out the door. They're not needing to get packed. We've eliminated a bunch of tribal knowledge. So new hires, they get trained, and they don't have to figure out what like items go with what like items, right? The algorithm already knows that, and it's funneling that information down to the headset. So that's been fantastic. And we've actually expanded this to other areas where we're not using the headsets. So for our ecom business, we're able to use the same algorithm for cartonization to understand what size box that this order should go out in at the end of the day, right? So at the end of the pick, what box is this going out in? There's not that many options, right, on the ecom side of things, because it's typically single line, single unit. So we're actually waiving our work. Thomas is showing you here, but we're actually waiving our work based on that outbound box size, so we can pick and batch and literally just lay out that one box size and throw everything in the box and let it go. So we've been expanding this technology slowly throughout the warehouse and anything we can use it for. So it's been phenomenal.
Okay, so I'm just sort of like just walking through what Andrew's talking about. So the way the two systems, it's okay.
Maybe go back to your flow chart.
Why are you doing this to me? So yeah, so in this flow chart, right? So orders drop into WMS. They drop from the B2B channel. They drop from the direct to consumer channel, Shopify, which has been growing quite a bit, right? So complicating things further, right? But that's fine, because the system's flexible. So orders drop into the WMS, they get aggregated by Perseuss, and they get cartonized, right? And so then all of these orders, they have a cartonization solution. The solution contains it knows what are the specific ship methods Medusa can use, what are the specific boxes Medusa can use for each ship method, what are all the other sort of constraints that a carrier might have or that are enforced by, let's say, tribal knowledge, right? Like, even if we could potentially fit more stuff here, we don't want the box to be heavier than 30 pounds. The solver knows what the rate cards are, so we're not trying to cost more than we have to in aggregate, right? We're not just optimizing cost of a box, we're optimizing a cost of an entire order here. And
so one other thing that I feel like we should talk about too is like an order can be shipped multiple ways. Obviously, if there's 5 boxes on the order, you could ship, all 5, one carrier, or they can go different carriers. With this technology now, we have the ability, because WMSs don't really think that way. At least I don't think they think that way. Most of them think on an order level basis. This thing's kind of thinks on a carton basis, right? So if you wanted to split your work and have it go multiple ship vias, why you would want to do that? We have a unique, obviously, situation, but you can do that now, right? So we're able to have some boxes in the order go FedEx, some boxes in the order go UPS, some boxes in the order go a final mile carrier that like we just brought on, right? So we have the flexibility now to actually to do that, right? Whereas with the WMS, the ship via is on the order header, right? It doesn't care really. It doesn't want to know like what does a user decide to do with each individual shipment. You know, it's not applicable to every single person or every single customer rather, but for us, we're unique in that most of our orders have multiple boxes, but not all of them need to go the same way. The other thing that we've done is we've actually turned this algorithm into a live rate checkout at our checkout for our customers. So it will rate what it should cost for shipping live to the customer based on all the rules that we've established. We also put in some thresholds that if it's within, you know, a certain dollar amount between parcel versus LTL, and the customer can accept an LTL, we'll actually flip the order to LTL. It's a better experience for the customer. It's a better experience for our warehouse. We can pick it differently. It actually goes out faster. So there's a lot of decisions that kind of automatically happen like agentically. I hate to use that word, but
I don't.
because of what we're doing and what we built kind of upstream, we're applying it to all these different areas now.
Trying to find where's our, we had so we would send a Slack message like this, that this order, it's easier, it's cheaper to flip the order to, even though it was scheduled by the WMS to go USPS, it's cheaper to send it by LTL. So
yeah, and that doesn't even include labor and all the other savings that we realize from that. So it's a high level thing. But you know, these are some of the things that, you know, the buzzword AI can do for your warehouse. And you know, we're walking around, you know, I'm an industrial engineer by trade, so business process improvement is what I do for a living, and it's something that I've brought to Medusa for the last 7 years, 8 years. And you know, when we walk around the warehouse, you know, we're always looking at what can we improve. Ecom was never really a problem because the volume wasn't really there, but now the volume's, you know, 5x, 6x, 7x what it was, you know, 2 or 3 months ago. That creates a problem, right? And that's where we started to say, well, how can we do this better? Let's take a look at this and let's apply some of the stuff we're doing with the cartonization. Let's apply that here and then batch by that outbound carton size. And we've realized a huge savings because not even really much of a savings. We didn't have to add headcount to a process that's growing at 20-30% a month. So that's huge, right? And speed, right? We're able to pick and pack it faster than we were in the old way. And that's just, you know, a WMS that's flexible with API, you know, a partner with Perseuss that's obviously capable of using those APIs, but also, you know, understanding how to merge it all together and how to apply all of it together. Because, like you said, where do you start? It is a tricky thing, you know, and I think a lot of times too, you're not even realizing what you're doing could be applied to that, right? So, you know, Thomas, there's probably 2 or 3 other things that we do with Perseuss that we're not even thinking about, right? So
another kind of behavior that I now suddenly I've known about for a while and been talking about for a while, but now suddenly we also have data to kind of like show the intelligence of the system, is that the system kind of learns with the company as it's deployed, because for example with Medusa, right, there's all these weird packing rules, and they know they want to pack batteries a certain way, and they need these special stickers and whatever, and it tries to separate it from other things like liquids, and sometimes the packers would like reject a solution provided by Perseuss because it doesn't fit a specific constraint, right? And so what we do is when we deploy a system like this, we actually rigorously measure on a daily granularity, but like we actually measure it on like a box granularity. Like which box, the recommendation that Perseuss gave, was it accepted by the packer that was actually closing the box, right? So the picker picks it into the box. The picker does no 3D Tetris. He just like throws items into the box, and then the packer is then only responsible for closing the box, or if there's a problem, solve the problem, right? And so because we then join it with the final, WMS data on like the actual shipments that were printed, the actual labels that were printed, we know which recommendations were accepted and we know which recommendations weren't, which boxes were downsized because they were bigger than they have to be, and which were upsized because they were smaller. And sometimes it's a data issue, right? Like if you have uh, an item that is small but has big dimensions in the WMS for whatever reason, right? Then it triggers downsizing and vice versa. And so as the company launches Perseus, the data that we run on gets better and better. And also the algorithm gets better and better, because then generally when a packer rejects a solution as like, hey, this box just it fits, for example, it fits, but like it's too much liquid items packed together with heavy items, and we know the heavy items are gonna squash the liquid items, so we're gonna reject this solution. And then we go and we build that logic, that insight into the algo for that customer. And so over time, we track what's happening, and we know that over time the system learns and gets better and better and better. And yeah, I mean, obviously we're trying to get to like 99.999, but that takes time. But like we're pretty close. Although this week kind of
So
sucks. I need to debug what's happening there. But yeah.
the other thing, well, that we have a lot of new hires, so who knows? But the other thing is that this, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but the tribal knowledge piece of this goes away, right? So whether it's hazmat labels that need to be put on the box, extra bubble wrap because there's glass products in the box, whatever it might be, now Perseus is passing that along to our voice picking system, who is then passing that obviously along to the picker. So there's a lot of flexibility now with things that you don't need to know. Oh, that has glass in it. Let's add some extra bubble. No, that's actually, the system is actually going to tell you to do that. So that's something I think we struggled with, labeling our outbound cartons and making sure that we're compliant and this, that, and the next thing. That all went away. And like you had said, right, the algorithm is not going to allow it to put too much glass into a single box. We're going to split that box into multiple boxes, right? And that's something that where then the packer gets the box, it looks at it, it's okay, there's not too much glass in here, let's just let it go out the door. Yeah, I mean, we've seen an uptick in the percentage of boxes that are ready to go right out the door, which is great. And those that can't, we tried to drill down and understand what it is that's causing that, and that's all we can do, right? Is continue to just
That's
make it
what
better and better.
That's what why this number is so important, is that the green boxes, the perfect fit boxes that we call, like, those are boxes that like, and out the door, right? The packer just like, okay, at Medusa they attach pack slips to the boxes, so the guy just prints a pack slip, puts it in a box, and closes it, right? This is there's no reshuffling, no redoing, no changing boxes. So like, this sets the stage for like some kind of a automated print apply, and completely eliminating that like human packing step, right? Eventually, right? Like if the green line isn't big enough, then like the packing automation step is gonna suffer. And so, Andrew, isn't that what you're kind of trying to do?
Yeah, that's what we're working on now. Yep. So we're working on some automation, a rapid pack station that allows us to push these boxes through a case sealer. We apply a label to it. For the e-com side of things, we're looking at a carton sealer, a case sealer, plus a print apply, like you had mentioned. So that way we can put our throughput through there. And then So yeah, so these are all things that couldn't have happened before.
Yes.
So
Andrew, some of the people that might be listening to this are like, okay, that's cool, but like, show me the numbers. What is the outcome? You know, that like AI is cool. I love robots and whatever, but like,
yeah,
what is the actual
okay.
impact? So we have some
How much
numbers
did you
here.
spend on this? Right. Yeah, I mean, so just without even looking at the slide, I mean, I can see the slide, but without even looking at the slide, right? Our sort of our MAR, our minimal accepted rate benchmark, whatever you want to call it, was like 90 tasks per hour, which is good. I mean, and now like our best picker is doing well. Okay, so our best picker was probably doing like 90 an hour. Our MAR was probably about like 60 an hour. So one pick face every minute you're going to pick. Now remember, we're picking 10 plus units probably on average at each pick face. You got to count it. Da da da. With that boxing it in the actual carton that's going out in now, we're actually picking our best picker and a few more are picking at 130 tasks per hour. Right. So we're seeing a 40 task per hour increase while you're actually putting the stuff in the box that it's going out in. So you don't have to touch it again. Right. So that's what's actually happening. Right. So our minimal, our MAR, I raised up to 90 to 100 tasks per hour for everybody because of this, right? So what does that mean for cost? I mean, our costs have gone down, you know, 10, 15, 20%.
You mean cost per unit, right?
So,
That's the metric you're looking at.
right. Yep. Our cost per unit's gone down, yeah, 25%, I want to say, because these boxes are going straight out the door and we're scaling. We didn't need to add people, right, to handle the volume. We're handling the volume growth with the headcount that we entered the year last year with, right? So we didn't add anybody, but yet we've grown at 20, 30%. So, and we've reduced costs by 25% on labor. So I think it all ties together. It kind of makes sense, right? The business is up and then we're flat on labor. That would be why the costs are down. So, but yeah, so it's been phenomenal. What and the costs to implement, the ROI was 6 months. So it was an easy decision for us on the management side of things to make this change. And the recurring costs are low as well. So, it's widely documented. I think if you Google us, you'll see we're all over the place. And there's another one coming. I think our WMS wants us to throw them a bone as well. So I think we're doing one with them as well. But yes, we've won awards. It's been documented through Lucas, the head set voice picking system, and then I think that the WMS is going to do one as well. So our WMS is the POSCO out of Atlanta.
Yeah,
So
I'm sending in a link where there's a nice 5-minute video. Andrew does more talking there, and there's you actually see the Packers walking around, and yeah. So in I guess in conclusion, it's been an interesting project, right? It's been a long journey, but like pretty much, 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, when I first met you, you've been talking about cartonizing at the order ingest level. And like the North Star
yeah,
hasn't really changed. And now we're finally there. How does that make you feel? And would you have done anything differently?
look, everybody says they can do it. They can't. If you're selling a t-shirt and jeans and that's your or you're selling, single line, single unit or single line, 1.5 unit or whatever, then cool. You definitely can cartonize and your WMS can probably handle that. But nobody could do what we're doing. We've met a lot of people. We've been to a lot of shows. We're going to Manifest next week. We've been to ProMat. We're going all over the place, right? We talked to a lot of people. Nobody's doing what this is what doing, right? So, and I would argue with anybody about that, right? At the level we're doing it, or Perseuss is doing it, nobody's doing it like that. And none of this would be capable if it wasn't for Perseuss, right? So this was a journey I started down when we had UPS. The WMS could handle it. It wasn't a really big deal, but it also didn't matter. We didn't have costs, high costs of sending things priority mail. We had a really good negotiated rate with UPS. Everything could go 2 day for ground. So it didn't really matter, right? But then all of a sudden that got blown up in our face, and it was like, no, things actually needed to matter, and it needs to matter what's in the same box. Like items need to go with each other. We have batteries, we have hazmat, we have glass, we have this, we have that. And this system just handles it seamlessly, right? So yeah, I feel like you're never finished, right? I think that will continue to hone the system, but if you looked at the dashboard, right, we're 85% there. I don't think we'll get, I know you had mentioned 99.9. If we can get to 90, 92, maybe 95%.
So we're already there.
Out the door.
We're already there. Weekly, we're at like 93.
Right.
I think we can go higher. I think we can go. I'm working with your packers on getting that higher.
And I think it's like, they go out the door, right? They go out the door and they're not being changed in the box, but how much touching up of the box are we doing, right? Are we adding bubble? Are we doing sorts of things like that we can probably start to work on, right? So, but yeah, I mean, we've been chipping away at this for 3 years, and I feel like we have a very solid product at this point.
Yeah. Andrew has some very, very customer obsessed packers, who really, it's an art form for them, kind of like how they arrange the box. So sometimes it's amazing, but it creates a lot of rules for the cartonization algo.
And it's probably unnecessary, right? Some of it's probably unnecessary. Some of it's probably antiquated rules that people don't realize they don't need to follow anymore. There's some management there that needs to probably be done. So those are things we're continuing to work on.
So that's been the journey, 2020, 3 to now, to early 2026. Now you have this infrastructure. You have a lot of super cool tech that, seems to be kind of, it's nice little tech orchestra in your warehouse. What's next for Medusa?
I think it's layering in some automation, like we had talked about, some of this carton sealers and print applies. And I think it's also continuing on the management side of things of cross training people and then flexing labor to just move around a little bit more. I think right now we still have some people sort of stuck in some static roles where I think, a picker and a packer and all these other people are kind of just one person now. So that's kind of what we're working on. But like I said earlier, continuing to hone the algorithm, make sure that the last 10% is handled, and is there anything that we can do better? I think there's some products that we don't do a great job with, rugs and some other stuff that we can start to focus on, right? It's a low volume, like that low volume type product that we don't, we didn't put a lot of calories into, but maybe we do that now. So handling that with the algo and picking LTL, we don't really pick LTL through this. So what does that look like, and how do we do that? That sort of thing. But I think we're in a really good place.
Awesome. So
yeah.
So me and Andrew, we've done these webinars. I think this is like webinar number 5 of where we're talking about the cartonization, voice picking, and the entire Medusa journey. We could talk about it all day, but we want to make sure we have a few folks here. If anyone wants to unmute themselves and ask a direct question to Andrew, or me or whoever, the remainder of the time we'd love to have some kind of an open forum conversation. feel free to type the questions if you're shy.
And while we're waiting for people to kind of come up with some questions too, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Ascension. Ascension is a strategic partner for a lot of clients. We roll out WMS and TMS, and we have a strategic partnership with Perseuss, obviously, to enable our clients with AI. So Andrew here is obviously demonstrating one of the places where AI can be applied to any WMS solution. But there's a number of things that, well, tons of things that AI could assist and help and improve with any modern WMS solution. So happy to talk more about that and at the end of our, reach out to us as well through Perseuss or Ascension through Al and myself. We'd love to talk to you more about things that we can put together for you guys.
Also, who's doing Manifest? Raise your hand if you're doing Manifest in 2 weeks. All right. All right, Herschel, I'll bump into you at Manifest like last year. Cool. No questions from Herschel. Any questions from Jacob or John or Jonathan?
All good on my end.
The only thing I can say is a comment. I joined late, but one of the things we were talking is obviously the focus is cartonization, but I think this can be used for pallet building to build more efficient pallets, and that would be a great feature to integrate together.
100%. Yeah, pallets, I think a lot of people have been reaching out to us about pallets, and so we don't do a great job of talking about pallets on the website, even though we like have the tools for it. So I think our topic for next webinar is going to be yapping about pallets more, and I'll prepare some demos for that. And
also,
Andrew, maybe we just need to start doing pallets at Medusa so we have something to talk about too.
I mean, we do for sure. We just need to, yeah, we can definitely do that.
Yeah.
Also, the capability of the AI system to show how to pack actually in the carton also too helps through the optimization of it. You can optimize the heck out of it using any WMS to get, a beautiful liquid fill into a container, right? But if the packer can't, doesn't have time to play Tetris, the system shows them how to pack and achieve that goal. So that really increases efficiency overall. And the AI system shows them how to do that.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And that's a good feedback. I think Thomas, you could talk a little bit about it if you want, but I think traditional cartonization thinks about things as liquid, and I don't believe that that's what Perseuss does.
No,
because I feel like that's yep.
Yeah,
That's
so that's a limitation. That'd be a
yep.
That'd be a very
Strong
very sad. Yeah, so like I would say, like the justification for building a company around liquid fill cartonization. I feel that's the because liquid fill is not that hard to build, and like most WMS have some kind of a liquid fill. The key is like once you really, and for those of you, okay, so since we're here, I'm gonna take the.
Well, it also still applies to even companies like Blue Yonder that have, cartonization, advanced cartonization that allows the system to build Tetris. It doesn't mean that the operator can do that once they get to the carton.
Agreed.
So if
agreed.
And the AI system can show them how to build that, you can achieve the goals that ultimately the system is showing can be done.
Yeah. So yeah.
And I think that's
we do the full geometry. Sorry, Andrew. Just want to make sure like no one leaves this meeting thinking that like we only do liquid fill. Like literally we do everything but liquid fill.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, you can't build a system that's like so complicated that people can't use it, right? At the end of the day, when we first built this, Thomas and I were talking about like, okay, well now we have another problem, right? Now you need to know what to put in what box. So we basically, Thomas built a temporary solution to get us from where we were to the headsets. He built a little put to light system on each station with a Raspberry Pi over a long weekend. So and each station had a little put to light. When you scanned an item, it would tell you where to put it. And like I said,
Yeah,
while
that
we
was
were
the good
waiting
old
for
days.
yeah, so that was on the cart and tote level or whatever, and then like I said, and then we took it one step further and went to the order level and started throwing it in the boxes on while you picked it, right? So but yeah, that's good feedback, Russ. Totally.
Absolutely, because there are, there are WMSs that do a halfway decent job with cartonization, but the AI system can take it much, much more farther, and the complexity that you're talked about too, Andrew, where you're splitting cartons based on some particular criteria. Most WMSs
Yeah,
are not doing that.
we have a pretty robust variable attributes for our variant. So like our SKU attribute table is pretty crazy. So it's pretty flexible. We can add new SKUs and all sorts of stuff. You know, we can add new attributes pretty easily. So
Yeah. So yeah, so I'm just sort of like showing that part of why this problem is so complicated is because there's the 3D part of it is only the 3D part of it is already complicated, but that's only like a small subset of the intelligence that needs to go into this, because like no one's just solving 3D Tetris. Like when you actually hang out in the warehouse and you speak to packers and you look at what they're doing, like they're doing a lot of mini decisions that are sometimes pretty hard to teach to a robot, right? So like they kind of figure out that certain items are fragile, and fragile items need to be on top or cannot, or fragile items cannot be packed with a certain item. So they make these micro decisions about which items can and cannot be packed together, which items can be standing up or which can be laid flat, and which items are squishable and act kind of like water and can be deformed, which boxes can or cannot be deformed. And so these are all variables that just make that are a nightmare for the solver generally. And that's where, and the problem that we've had like in the early years of Perseus is like we would try to convince people that they need, like WMS people. Like I kind of stopped doing that. But originally, young naive Thomas, I'd hang out with WMS people at these trade shows and try to convince them that their WMS cartonization isn't good enough because all these use cases aren't covered and are too hard. And like a WMS is never going to have enough time to go as deep into all these possible combinations. And obviously the WMS salespeople don't really want to hear that their cartonization isn't good. So those conversations haven't really gone that well. But what we have learned, what does work is like I'm not going around telling people, hey, your cartonization sucks, you should use Perseus. Instead, I'm just showing what Perseus can do and talking about it on LinkedIn. And then slowly but steadily, people are waking up and like, oh, can you handle squishable items? Can you handle nesting? Can you handle stacking? And then they come here and they see that, yeah, we handle all of this, right? And you can like run the examples and you can see exactly what it's going to do. And that sort of like builds trust way more. But yeah, it's an infinitely complicated problem, I would say. Like we've been 2.5 years deep into it, and like there's no end in sight. It just gets more and more interesting.